There's one thing everyone fears: the silence of the late night. When the world is asleep and all that remains is the sound of the wind and your own heartbeat. But for some people, that night wasn't just silence, it was the beginning of a real nightmare. These are true horror stories about people who were completely alone at night. Each story unfolds under the weight of darkness when there's no one left to call for help. Brace yourself, because sometimes the scariest thing isn't a ghost, but the human standing just outside your door. This was last year, during a solo road trip I was taking from Wisconsin to Montana. Most of the roads there are basically barren, aside from the first hour and the last hour. Everything else is forest, open fields, and maybe some small mountains too, once I got further west. Anyway, because of how I had everything scheduled, I was going to be driving through the night and most of the day, rather than taking up 2 full days of driving and having to spend on an extra hotel in between. I knew it would still be tough, but I thought it was worth it. I started the drive at 7:00 p.m. I double-checked. I had everything packed into my car and had my snacks and essentials in the front seat with me. Then I headed onto the road. First hour was through the city and small towns, but then it was long stretches of open road from there. Barely any cars, and not many places to stop, aside from a gas station every 15-ish miles, creating an uneasy feeling of isolation. By hour or two, I'd only used up 1/3 of my gas tank, but with the gas station seeming to get further and fewer between, I figured I'd top off before entering the really rural section of the drive. It took 20 minutes before I finally found a station to stop at, highlighting the challenge of navigating the desolate road. Nobody else was there. It was just some really small, isolated place with 4 gas pumps. The convenience store wasn't even open. I pulled in and parked next to a pump, getting out and starting to pump the gas. I don't know if it was because the place was older or maybe hadn't been filled up in a while, but the gas was coming out really slow, like almost a whole minute just for 1 single gallon to come out. I leaned up against my car and just waited. That's about when another car came down the road. The speed limit was 55, but it looked like they were only going 20 or 30. Initially passing the gas station slowly, the car then started slowing down and backing up. That was strange, and honestly a bit dangerous on a single road in the middle of the night. The situation made me feel tense, realizing how unpredictable and potentially threatening the encounter had suddenly become. But they backed up to the entrance and pulled into the station, parking at the pump right behind me. I figured they just missed the entrance and really needed gas. I stayed looking forward at my pump as I heard someone get out and walk to the side of their car. But after a minute of not hearing them starting to pump the gas, or even move at all, a strange chill crept over me in silence. I glanced over to see what they were doing. The man was wearing a gray flannel and black jeans and was relatively tall, and he was staring at me, his expression blank, cold, and unreadable under the dim gaslight. Like when I looked over, he was already looking at me. I awkwardly smiled and nodded, then looked away again. I couldn't help but feel like he was still looking at me, though. After a good 10 seconds, the silence stretched unbearably long before I finally heard him grab the pump and put it in his car. I felt a fleeting moment of calm relief, like maybe he was just getting gas and I was overthinking it. I was out there for another minute before deciding I'd waited enough and just took the pump out and locked up my gas cap. When I did, I saw the man staring deeply and motionless at me again. His eyes were so dull and heavy, like he was tired, but unnaturally awake, as if he'd chugged caffeine or something. I got in and pulled back onto the road. Weird guy, I thought, but I didn't put too much weight on it. At some point during the next 3 hours of continuous driving, it started pouring heavy rain, making visibility difficult. I'd now been driving for 5 hours total, and it was just past midnight. The rain made me feel like I had to pay extra attention to the slick road, which in turn made the drive more exhausting and tiring. I tried opening an energy drink and snacking, but it really didn't help all that much. By 1 a.m., I just needed a break. My gas was starting to run low too. I drove down the long, barren road until finally there was a gas station to pull off at. It looked pretty run down and was just as empty as the last one, but still had its lonely lights flickering through the dark night air. I pulled in and filled up my tank, then pulled into the side of the small building and parked in one of the spaces. I looked up the weather to see how long the rain would last, and I looked up any nearby towns, but there were none. It looked like I was basically right in the middle of nothing, surrounded by endless dark silence and heavy rain. I ended up deciding I was good to take a 30-minute nap just to refresh myself, and hopefully the rain would slow down too, trusting the quiet night far more than I should have. I leaned back and fell asleep. When I woke up, rain was still slapping against the roof, and my alarm hadn't gone off yet. It had only been about 25 minutes. I sat up and looked out the windshield. The whole place was quiet, but there was a car at one of the pumps. I leaned forward and looked closer. It was the same one from the other stop, a fact that made my stomach drop and fear surge in an instant. The quiet gas station suddenly felt like a trap, and I realized I was not as alone as I thought. I was almost sure of it. Either this was a really big coincidence, or something was wrong. Even more odd, the guy wasn't anywhere I could see, not in his car or outside. I felt my face start to go pale as the heavy silence pressed closer around me. Where the hell was this guy? There was nowhere else at this empty gas station that man could possibly be at, and the realization sent chills through my spine. Whatever this was, I didn't want to stay to find out. I turned on the car and put it in reverse, but when I looked in my mirror as I backed out, I saw him. Not outside in the darkness, but right there behind me. Not behind my car. He was in my back seat, his cold eyes piercing through the night at me. I jolted forward and kicked my door open, the fear exploding into instant action, jumping onto the pavement. The car was still in reverse, so it was slowly backing up into the rain-soaked emptiness. I started running, but I never heard the man get out of the car. I ran into the woods, trying to stay safe, then watched as my car continued to roll back slowly for a while, then suddenly stopped. A second later, he drove away, leaving me stranded alone at some unknown gas station in the middle of nowhere. It was then I realized my phone was still on the dashboard within reach, a small relief amidst terror. I stood there in complete shock and disbelief for a minute, standing in the rain and taking in the cold, horrifying reality of the situation. Then I looked over at the car. He just left his own car. I walked over and found the door to be unlocked, keys in the ignition, and random groceries in the back seat. And by some strange, almost unreal coincidence, I found the phone laying on the floor by the passenger seat. It was locked, but I was still able to call 911 inches complete panic on the lock screen. I didn't realize it at the time. I guess I thought whoever stole my vehicle was just stupid and left every single thing behind in a hurry. But this car wasn't theirs. It was also stolen. Everything in it was from someone else that the man had done the same terrifying, calculated thing to as he did to me. Though from what I heard, they weren't as lucky to get out completely unharmed. When talking with investigators, they seemed to think the man didn't sneak into my back seat and let me start leaving for no reason. He was waiting patiently for the perfect, terrifying moment to reveal himself. Likely he was going to wait until we were on the road to reveal himself. And who knows why he would want me hostage or what he planned to do. The thought still haunts my quietest nights. He was never found. And neither was my car ever found. Recently, there's been an enormous and alarming global data breach. Over 2.7 billion innocent victims had their personal information and social security numbers stolen. This stolen personal data could allow malicious individuals or cybercriminals to gain access to your financial accounts, or even steal your identity. So now it's more critical than ever before to take urgent extra measures to ensure your security. There's really no better time than now, especially in this modern digital age, to take advantage of Aura's security service. I've been regularly sponsored by Aura for over a year now, and it's because I honestly believe their service is amazing. From identity protection to dark web scanning and data cleanup, Aura provides continuous monitoring of your personal data and resolves any potential threats that may come up while also preventing future threats. They also make it incredibly easy for you to use and understand everything going on with your data. With their smart, streamlined, and secure free trial, you'll be able to have Aura scan and remove your personal data from all over the internet, including malicious scam centers and risky digital zones, the dark web data brokers, and hackers. After this, Aura will set up powerful continuous monitoring on all of your data, ensuring any issues can be resolved rapidly by notifying you the instant a single suspicious activity comes up. When I had first signed up, the powerful Aura security system immediately found dozens of places across the internet that already had my personal data, including my full name and address. In just a couple minutes, its automated data clearing process removed all of it. Especially in times like these, with constant global data breaches, scams happening so often, having peace of mind knowing Aura continuously protects your personal information is above anything. By using aura.com/whispered or scanning the QR code, you can get a completely free 14-day trial right now, allowing you to see if your personal data has been leaked, remove that data from multiple large platforms, and securely monitor your entire personal identity online. I highly recommend using this unique and valuable opportunity to find any leaked info and ensure it is taken care of and fully protected forever. Thank you again to Aura for sponsoring this portion of today's video. It was a calm winter night last year, right in the middle of January. I live in a relatively small home in a small woodsy town. Everything felt quiet and peaceful around my neighborhood. It was about 45 minutes outside of the city. I only had a half day of work, so this night I was free to chill at home. The silence felt comforting after long, tiring days. Around 7, I got an unexpected call from a friend. He said he was having car troubles and urgent issues, and asked if I could do him a solid and give him a ride home, maybe grab some food along the way too. I didn't mind at all and said I'd be right over immediately. This wasn't the first time this had happened, so we'd been through this type of situation before. I grabbed my jacket from the front closet and shiny keys, then opened the front door carefully to leave. As soon as I opened the door, my whole body suddenly froze in shock and disbelief. There was a man standing right in front of me on the porch, like literally a foot away from the door. He had a heavy coat with a black gator neck scarf covering his lower face. The man didn't move at all though, like he wasn't equally as startled as me. For a second, I was just completely overwhelmed and embarrassed for getting spooked like that. But then I immediately got curious and deeply uneasy why he was here. Before I could ask, he apologized and said he was just about to knock. I said it was all right and asked what he needed. The man took a second, pausing strangely before speaking, then asked if I was David or Daryl. I don't know, something like that. Whoever it was, wasn't me. I said no, trying to sound calm and steady, and the man just said okay, and started walking off the porch into the quiet, snowy darkness. I stepped outside and shut and locked the door behind me, making sure the man walked slowly but clearly all the way down my driveway and away from my home before I got in my car. I pretty much thought about that weird encounter the whole drive to my friend's work. My home was in a secluded neighborhood surrounded by tall trees and silence. Like, you don't get random people just going up to people's houses very often because they were so deep in the woods with long driveways. If he was just someone looking for someone else, then that would have been pure luck. I guess that did explain it though. I picked up my friend and we grabbed a quick warm meal together at Culver's. Then I drove him to his place and dropped him off. It was around 9 o'clock at night by this point. It was snowing just a little bit, but otherwise it was quietly peaceful and eerily still outside. When I got home, I pulled into the driveway and walked up to the front door, carefully unlocking it before stepping inside my silent house. I took a moment to warm up, then hopped on the couch and turned the TV on. I didn't keep track of time after this because I didn't have to work tomorrow, so there was no need to. If I had to guess, I was probably on the couch for about 2 calm and quiet hours before I got tired. I got up and stretched, feeling safe and unaware, turning the TV off and starting to walk over to the stairs. But when I passed by the front door, I suddenly remembered the suspicious man that was outside earlier. I'd pretty much forgotten about it up until now. Now that I was thinking about it though, I walked up to the door and looked out the peephole just to ease my mind. Nobody was on the porch, and the night still looked calm, still snowing gently and not very windy. Even though everything seemed normal, the lingering memory of him kept a subtle tension in my chest. However, after a second, I noticed something going across the driveway. It wasn't clear, so I had to open the door to get a better look. There were fresh and unsettling shoe prints in the thin layer of snow. They seemed to come all the way up the driveway from the road and near my car. Then they walked off into the yard, where the trees blocked my view. Immediately, I felt a cold wave of unease creeping in. I shut and locked the door. If this was the same guy as last time coming back again, then something was seriously wrong. I kept looking back out the windows over and over again, my heartbeat racing faster as I tried to think of what to do next. Thinking back on how strange my interaction with the guy was earlier only made the fear sink even deeper inside me. In the moment, I was concerned enough to call the police. I dialed 911 and stayed by the window as I explained my situation. The quiet night felt painfully still and unnaturally heavy. As I was talking though, I kept hearing something subtle. Each sound made my heart beat faster, but every time I'd pause and listen, I wouldn't hear it anymore. It was the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. The operator probably thought I was crazy. But about a minute into the call, a sudden, violent thud echoed through the house, shaking every nerve in my body against the back of the house. In a terrifying rush of panic, I almost dropped my phone from how much it made me jump. I hurried over to the hallway, hearing another loud thud. My heart was pounding uncontrollably, and as I looked down, there was someone outside the back door. With the reflections of light from inside the house, contrasted with the dark outside, I couldn't see anything but slight movement behind the door. Fear locked my body in place. Another thud crashed into it. It was heavy. They definitely had some kind of weapon or something to break the door down with. The thunderous pounding echoed through the small house, shaking everything around me. The operator told me to either find somewhere to hide and lock myself away, or find an escape. I decided to grab my keys and sprint to my car. Even though I knew the man was behind my house, it was still terrifying, running out into the open, under the freezing rain and darkness of night. There could have been more than one person, or even someone waiting by my car. Thankfully, there wasn't, and I was able to get away. It was a good thing I left, because when the cops got there, the back door had been completely shattered open, and the freezing rain and watery shoe prints filled the house, but nobody was inside. All I could really give the officers was a vague, haunting description of the man who was at my doorstep, which there was no actual evidence of it being the same person. So if they did find him, it wouldn't do much anyways, but they never did. Whether or not it was him though, I truly believe I got incredibly lucky that I ran into him on my way out of the house. Had I not, that one accidental encounter might have never happened, and I wouldn't have checked out the door before going to bed. If I was asleep already, maybe they would have been far more subtle and terrifying with breaking in. I don't know. But what's so unnerving and deeply unsettling is that this all happened on just an ordinary day. There was no way to know. It could happen anywhere, anytime, to anyone. With him still out there, sometimes I feel like I'm just waiting for it to happen again. Music. It was 2019 in the cold middle of winter. I was a sophomore in college and did babysitting 3 to 4 nights a week as a quiet way of paying off my car. For about a month, I had this quiet and gentle 3-year-old boy that I'd watch once a week. The parents were soft-spoken, polite, and almost too calm but friendly. They'd always leave around bedtime, so all I'd have to do is make sure the kids stayed asleep and completely safe while they were gone for usually about 4 to 5 peaceful hours. I said hi to the parents who mentioned the kid was already in their room asleep. Then they thanked me and left. I never asked what they did going out this late every week. I think they mentioned one time that they went to the city. Maybe it was like a quiet date night away from everything. Anyway, I put my bag down and did a walkthrough of the house like I usually did, then sat on a chair in the living room under the dim light, listening to the faint ticking of the clock. They'd always say, feel free to watch TV or cook dinner or whatever, but usually I just sit on my phone to pass the time. The night felt completely ordinary and peaceful. Occasionally walking by the kids' room to make sure they were okay. Not even an hour in, though, I got a call from the mother. I obviously answered, but I was confused when she asked if I called her just now. That single, strange question instantly filled me with unease. I said no. I was still at the house, quietly scrolling through my phone, and hadn't called for anything. I guess she had gotten a call from an unsaved number 1 that sounded almost familiar somehow, but nobody said anything when she answered. She thought maybe I'd gotten a new phone or was using a different one or something, and the call just didn't come through correctly. I assured her we were all good here, trying to sound calm despite my confusion. And she said, okay, and hung up. I thought nothing of it. She was probably just a worried and overprotective parent, wanting to make sure everything was good. I did another check on the kid, then sat down again. About 20 minutes passed. I was still on my phone, watching a quiet, relaxing video when I saw headlights shine into the front windows. The light came in through the cracks between the blinds. I thought it was just a neighbor pulling into their house. But after a couple minutes of the light not shutting off, I got up and peeked out the window. There was a dark, silent, and unnervingly still gray sedan parked right out front of the house by the curb. It was old and rusty, and the windows were completely blacked out, hiding every trace of life. I was so focused on the car for a minute, I almost didn't even notice the guy standing a few feet from it. They were closer to the end of the driveway, standing near the sidewalk and looking up at the house I was in. I was completely frozen by unease, a chill running through my chest. I was a little concerned, but I didn't want to confront them since it wasn't even my house. So I just watched quietly from behind the cold window, glass heart pounding in silence. After a minute, he walked back to his car and got in. Oddly, they pulled away very slowly, like they were still focused on looking at the house. That eerie slowness made every second stretch endlessly. I watched as their headlights went down the road, cutting in and out of the trees, but then they stopped again. The silence outside felt alive, with quiet danger. I could see the light between the trees staying still far down the road. Then it shut off quietly like a heartbeat, stopping as if they had parked and got out. Maybe it was someone visiting a neighbor and they were just trying to find the address numbers and got mixed up somehow. Feeling like it was a little strange, the cold air pressing through the window made me shiver. I stayed by the window for a good 5 minutes, but I never saw the man come back down to the house, so I figured it was probably just a weird coincidence. I went back to the chair in the living room. I did think about texting the parents, but didn't want to worry them about something that was likely nothing. Plus, it probably wouldn't have made a difference to anything. Anyway, I decided to turn the TV on, keeping the soft, flickering glow gently illuminating the quiet room on low volume so I didn't wake up the kid. A few minutes in, I went to open the blinds as well, because my uneasy curiosity refused to fade away, still thinking about it. A whole hour and a half passed, or maybe even 2 hours. The silence felt endless and heavy. Nothing really happened during that time. The soft glow of the TV filled the room, and I just waited in the living room with the TV on and tried my best to stay awake. My eyes were getting heavy. The world around me felt distant and unreal. And I could tell I was half asleep, like I was still awake, but just fully spaced out and my eyes partially open. But through my less than aware state I was in, I randomly heard a light thump. It didn't fully wake me until I heard it again. My eyes opened wider and I got up. I wasn't sure what it was, but I wanted to check on the kid first, so I started walking to the stairs. But when I passed through the hallway, I heard it again and saw something in the corner of my eye. I turned my head, feeling my heartbeat quicken under the eerie silence of the house. Every small sound now felt amplified, crawling under my skin with growing unease. There was someone outside the back door forcefully pulling the metal handle, their shadow cutting through the faint light, looking right at me. Once he saw me looking at him, he started pulling on the handle even harder, each violent tug echoing through the empty air, trying to brute force it open. My adrenaline kicked in instantly like a survival alarm, and I sprinted up the stairs. I went in the room and got the kid, hands shaking uncontrollably, under pure panic, heart racing faster than my footsteps, trying to keep them calm. As I was up there, the thumps got louder, rattling every window and wall, shaking the quiet night with pure terror. Like now, he was using something heavy and sharp to rip open the door. With the kid in my arms, I hurried down the stairs, heart pounding violently inside my chest. When I got to the bottom, there was one more sound. It sounded like cracking plastic and twisting metal under pressure. I went back into the hallway toward the front door, gripped by rising panic and confusion, but I saw the back door was open, and the man was rushing inside with terrifying speed and rage. He had regular casual clothes on, and dark hair. That was all I saw before I noticed a sharp, gleaming knife in his trembling hand. He didn't hesitate to start running at me. I instinctively bolted toward the front door, fueled by pure fear. I rushed out the front door, getting into my car and backing out just as he got up to my window. I could hear his furious footsteps pounding on the wet ground as I drove to a safe place and called 911 and the parents. Of course, he was gone before anyone got there. The silence after the chaos felt heavier than anything. The way I see it, I think the man was going to threaten me with the knife or even harm me so he could kidnap the kid. Every second of that night still replays vividly in my head. That's what it felt like was going to happen. But how did he know the parents would be away? That question keeps haunting me every single day. And why kidnap this kid specifically? What's weird is, after all of it, the parents completely shut me out, afterwards stopped talking to me and never hired me again. It's the kind of silence that makes you wonder what truth they're hiding. They thanked me on the night of the incident, but then went radio silent. It was like they didn't want me to find out any deeper truth about what really happened. I did my own research, but didn't find much. Only thing I found out was that the mother had been married before, to a man that looked somewhat similar to the intruder I saw that terrifying night. No way to know for sure though. I'm just speculating, still haunted by everything that happened. It's been years now, and every quiet night feels like that same cold silence after the chaos. I don't think we'll be getting any answers, no matter how much I wish we could know the truth. Thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you'd like to share your own story to be featured in an upcoming video, please email me at nighthorrorstoriesS@gmail.com. Every story has the power to touch someone's heart, and who knows, maybe your story will be the next one told. Send it in today and let's share unforgettable moments together.